All right. Okay, this is a great one. Let's see. What question should I ask JT if I get laid off? I love this question, whoever asked it. So many people I work with, when they get laid off, they are completely overwhelmed. They're in shock, they're emotional, and they shut down. And you cannot afford to do that in that moment because that is that very small window you have where a representative of the company can answer some extremely important questions for you. And if you leave that meeting and you don't have these questions answered, it's going to be a lot harder for you to get the answers. And it can make it more difficult for you to get things like unemployment and even a new job, right? So there are 10 questions that I teach all Work It Daily members to ask if and when they get laid off. And if they get laid off and they didn't ask these questions, I try to get them to go find somebody at the organization and get these 10 questions answered. And let me walk you through them because they're so important for you to know. First one, what's my last official day of employment? Okay, you need to know the end date of your employment. That will impact how you apply for unemployment in your state, right? And to receive benefits. They're going to want to know the last day that you worked. Secondly, will I be getting any severance? Some companies will give you severance, which is extra pay beyond your last day of employment. That will also impact what you get for unemployment. Your state's going to want to know that because they're not going to give you any unemployment benefits until the money you were given has run out. Number three, when will I get my last paycheck and how will I get it? So most companies will pay in the last pay cycle. So whenever you're due, your normal paycheck is when you'll get it. They're required to give it to you. They can't hold on to it for an extended period of time or delay when you're going to get that. So you want to ask when you're going to get that check. And some of them will decide to not put it in direct deposit and mail it to you, which buffers them and gives them some extra time before those get deposited. So if that's the case and you're going to get a check in the mail, then you need to make sure that they have your proper address so that you get the check. Number four, will I get paid any outstanding vacation or personal time? So you want to check your employee handbook on this policy first before you ask this question, because some companies say, hey, if we lay you off, you don't get any of that. But some say you do. Like if we lay you off or you're leaving, we'll pay that out, in which case they owe that to you. And you can mention that because they would need to pay you that money. All right. Otherwise, they could be taken to claims court on that. Number five, how long will my medical benefits last and when will I be eligible for COBRA? So this is for anyone that has health insurance, for example. At some point in time, your benefits, your premiums run out that are paid or partially paid by your employer. And then you would need to go and do something called COBRA, which is you have access to your same insurance for 18 months afterwards, but you have to pay all of the premiums. And there are some rules around when you have to sign up for it by, that sort of thing. So you want to make sure that they're very clear to you in terms of your COBRA and who you can contact regarding COBRA after you leave. Number six, who can a future employer contact for a reference? This is a big deal, folks, because what if your manager is also laid off? Everyone's gone. Who can they contact at the company to verify that you actually work there? They should have a name and an email address and somebody that you can give to a potential employer in the future. Number seven, what information will be verified on my reference check? This is also very important. Some companies have a strict policy that they will only verify your dates of employment, your start date, your end date, right? And your pay rate. Some of them won't give any sort of feedback on your performance. And you need to know that because if you don't know that, you can't forewarn an employer. So when they call up and they start asking questions about you and the company says, we don't give that information out, they could misinterpret it as, okay, what happened here? Maybe they did something wrong. So you want to be able to go on the offensive and say, hey, just so you know, my employer only verifies dates of employment and pay rates. So they're probably not going to give you much info, but here's the contact info so you can call them. Okay. And then number eight, am I eligible for rehire if a job comes available? Folks, you must ask this question. And let me tell you why. Some companies are going to claim they're laying you off, but in their paperwork, they're going to list you as fired. And if they list you as fired, it could mess with your ability to get unemployment, right? Because if you get laid off, you're owed unemployment. In some states, if you get fired, you don't get unemployment. So you want to ask, am I eligible for rehire? Because if they say yes, then that's confirming it was a layoff. If they say no, then that's them saying that they're coding you as fired. And that is a big deal, in which case you're going to need to state why. You're going to have to ask why you are not eligible for employment and get that in writing. And in some cases, you can even go after them for defamation of character or for miscalculating that, especially if they told you it was a layoff, but they labeled you as being fired. Number nine, will I receive outplacement services to help me with my job search? Another huge one. So Most executives and senior level managers know that when they're exiting a company to negotiate for career coaching services. Those are called outplacement services. And the reason for that is studies show that people that get help with their LinkedIn profile, their resume, their cover letter, their job search, and their networking get jobs 2 times faster. So managers and executives know to ask for this stuff, but the average professional does not, and therefore doesn't ask for it and doesn't get it as a benefit. You need to ask for outplacement. The fact that you're asking for it will make them understand that you know this. And if they say no, you should follow up and say, is anyone in the organization getting outplacement? Because if they lie to you and say no, and you find out people did, then you would have reason to go after them for discrimination. And if they are giving out placement, then you have means to say, well, I want some too. Okay. It's outplacement is so important. And right now, candidly, a lot of companies are going to argue they don't have the money for outplacement because traditional outplacement is very expensive. It's usually about $2,400 a person, which is why they only give it to executives. However, companies like ours, Work It Daily, we're an outplacement alternative. Literally for 1/10 the cost of that, 1/12, if I do the math correctly, you could have a year's worth of outplacement and career coaching with us. And so think about that. No excuses. You should be entitled to outplacement. It's going to get you off unemployment faster, which is a benefit to them because they have to pay those unemployment insurance premiums. So you want to ask for outplacement. You want to check and see if anyone's getting outplacement and you want to push for it, or at least ask to be reimbursed for it. Okay, and number 10, who can I contact with any additional questions I have? Never leave a layoff situation without the name and email address of somebody you can contact regarding any other questions you have, because you may have them. And it's important that you be able to get straight to someone, because once again, the people that you know at the company, they may not be there any longer. And then you might not have any contacts and it'll be very difficult to get in touch with someone. Okay. So 10 extremely important questions that you should ask when you're getting laid off. Make sure you have those somewhere. You know, folks, the reality is so many people have been laid off recently. We probably all know one, if not multiple people who have been laid off, and they're going to keep coming, which means you could be next. And to not have these questions ready is just a shame, because you need these questions in the moment when you're most vulnerable and most emotional. So make sure you type those up. You've got them ready to go. And that way you'll be able to leave that situation with the information you need to move forward.